Hi, good evening, and welcome to my daily live session on various topics for creating world class companies and exceptional leaders. So, today, as usual, I'll be picking up one task at one tool or method at random and then explaining that with my experience and wisdom. So, let me directly jump into that topic for the day, which is task expected due date. What is this all about? In projects, if you are following what is called as critical chain project management, it is extremely important to understand what is the expected delivery date. So based on that, one can calculate the buffer, and based on the buffer calculation, one can prioritize the projects. That means the projects with the least buffer have the highest priority in any organization, and that is something which is to be known to the entire organization, so that all people working in those projects with the least buffer time would give the highest those projects would get the highest priority. And if that happens across the organization, then naturally all the projects being done in an organization will be delivered on time. That is a basic fundamental principle of critical chain project management. Apart from the fact that uh, in contrast to critical uh, uh, path method, in the critical chain project management, the sequential activities, that means the activities, not the sequential activities, sorry, activities which are done by the same resource, in the case of critical path method, are planned in parallel, assuming that the resource has got unlimited capacity. Whereas in the case of critical chain project management, any task or set of tasks which have to be completed by the same resource are always planned sequentially, so that it defines a chain of activities, because the critical resource, the common resource, can only work on one project at one task at a time. Therefore they're put in a sequence. Therefore it is called as critical chain project management. That is the first principle. Second principle is to remove the task buffers in each individual task and then put it at the end of the project buffer. That is something which is also equally important. So that the buffer is at the end, everybody can use that buffer because of the surprises. Every project has a lot of surprises, a lot of what should I say, unknown situations. Because as I keep talking whenever I speak about projects, every project has a scope, and the scope always get changed because the project is something which is uncertain. And this uncertainty comes mainly from the customer perspective, because the customer also would have started a project assuming some what should I say, end results and end outcomes of other activities which are being done, and these end outcomes may not always be the same as what was expected. Therefore the scope changes, and the scope changes mean that you have to either add on new tasks, or replace the tasks, or eliminate the tasks. And that is one way of one reason. The second reason is that as the project progresses, because every project is something which is unique, and which is being done for the first time, there will be surprises. Surprises mean that something which was committed by the person who's conducting who's delivering the project may not be possible at all, because there were again some assumptions made for committing something to be done, which is not possible either technically, or it is not possible because of various other constraints, and therefore also the scope will change. And this change in scope will mean that the content of the activity continuously keep changing. Therefore the tasks can get delayed. That is one side, from the client side. And from the vendor side, the projects can get delayed because of unexpected surprises in the project. For example, we had assumed that the in the case of a software project, the coding would be very easy, and later as you move along, you find out that there are much more activities involved in the coding rather than what was assumed initially. Therefore the task gets delayed. Or in the case of engineering projects, let us say the design lead time was expected to be X, but it really overshot significantly because the design content itself got changed because of the assumptions of some particular existing design to be used there, which was not possible. Therefore the design had to be redone again. Therefore you have to uh, uh, extend the due date for the particular task. If that happens, in the tasks end date for various tasks would keep getting extended. Now, look at this example where there is a plan date, which is the one on the left side. You can see this on the left side. Let me just go to that screen. On this side, what you see where I'm using my screen, I don't know whether it is visible or not. No, it is not visible. So let me put on the laser pointer so it becomes easy. Give me a second. I just add the laser pointer here. Yeah. Pointer options, and we will pick the laser pointer. Okay. So now I think you can see the laser pointer. I'm talking about this area here, this space. This particular line, what you see here, is the first planned due date. This point which I am talking about here is the planned due date, the originally planned due date. Now, for whatever reason that didn't happen, planned due date was not possible to be adhered because the project, the task didn't start at all. Imagine a situation like that. The task has not started because the earlier task has got delayed. That's a very simple reason for that. There is no major complexity in understanding that. Because the earlier task is delayed, now the expected start date for the next project for this task is now going to get delayed. So that is now somewhere here, which is what you see here, this line, which is telling that you're going to start after the planned due date of the respective task. That means the task itself has got so delayed that it is already in red zone because you overshot the planned due date. The expected start date is after the planned due date. No problem at all. Now we need to give a new planned due date. How do we do that? That is something which is important. Then based on that, possibly somebody said, now we will extend it and then make a new planned due date, which is what you see on the right here. This line here, which is the expected, which is the planned due date. Now the new planned due date is at this point. Now that is the planned due date, considering the touch time. That is what the project management guy calculated, saying that, look, the touch time for this particular task is X. Therefore, I just take the expected start date and then add just the touch time. Touch time, I'd explain to you, is the time during which the project activity is being really worked upon. It is something where value addition is being done with zero waiting times, zero losses, zero everywhere. There is no loss at all. 100% of the job is only on that project. That's what the project coordinator has assumed, and he has defined the planned due date, which is the expected start date plus the touch time. Now the question is, would you continue with that as a task manager, as the task owner, let us say? Would you be going ahead with the same planned due date and confirm that as the expected due date, or would you do something different? Now in this case, it is really in the crisis phase, right? It is not in a situation where you got any buffer at all. There is zero buffer. And at such a situation, even though the touch time is what is required for actually completing the task, that touch time is only that time which is required absolutely for completing the task. I would still recommend, again, this is something possibly strange, but I say that is from my practical experience, that even in such a case where you have already overshot everything, it is always necessary to plan a slight buffer. Therefore, planning this buffer, what you see on the right side, this space here, which is the buffer space on the right hatched portion at the bottom, and this buffer space, what you see here, this buffer space is something which is mandatory. Therefore, I would define the expected due date as more than the later than the planned due date, because I would say that, look, there is some amount of buffer required. This buffer is something which I plan as a task owner, where I'm trying to consider some minute buffer, not a big buffer, very small buffer, but that buffer is always necessary. If I do it ahead of the time, it is okay, absolutely good, people will be happy. If I get delayed, then it will be a problem, because all the others in the organization also would get impacted with that. Therefore, it is important that even in such a case where you have totally delayed, totally overshot the commitments, always to plan a very slight micro buffer. This is required only when the task is delayed. When the tasks are all on time, then always plan the buffer at the end. There won't be any crisis, because the end buffer can be used up by everybody. In this case, where the task is really beyond the planned start date itself, beyond the original planned date, we have not even started the task. There, my recommendation is to plan a very minute micro buffer there, and keep it transparent. Not that you are trying to hide the information. Keep it transparent. Tell the project coordinator that you still have a buffer here planned because of the unexpected, which can come up when you are performing the particular task, since it's a project, not because it is operations. If it was operations, then I would have given zero buffer. Not only zero buffer, I would have further asked them to squeeze the task time, to squeeze the touch time, because they have been doing the same thing over and over again. This time we will try to do something to further squeeze the touch time. That is what my strategy would be. And in this case too, since it is already delayed, once the expected due date has been announced by the task owner, I would give the task owner all priority, all support, all help that is required to make sure that the touch time can be further reduced. But that I would do only after committing an expected due date with a buffer. After giving the buffer, then I would work on trying to reduce the touch time. This is again something which is possibly counterintuitive. Many a times what happens in the organization is, because I'm in a position to help to get the touch time reduced, people would reduce the touch time and give a different expected due date, which is going to be missed because that particular activity of helping somebody to do something is an external activity, again being done for the first time. We don't know whether it's going to work at all or not. Therefore, it doesn't make any sense in using that as the basis for commitments. When you are making a commitment, it's extremely important that we are making a commitment which is realistic, which can be then used as a basis for planning. Planning has to be realistic. Planning cannot be based on targets, based on assumptions. It has to be as realistic as possible so that the plans can be realized. Plans can be successful. That is something which is what I wanted to say today. With that, today's method or tool which I used for was to talk about how you're going to define the define the expected due date in projects when the particular task is delayed beyond expectation, beyond the originally planned date. Then also you need to have a very slight buffer. That is a message for today. With that, thanks a lot for watching. For those of you in India, have a nice evening. For those of you outside India, have a great day ahead. See you tomorrow, more or less the same time, with another tool or a method for creating world-class companies and exceptional leaders. With that, goodbye and take care.